going to do is I'm going to give us a couple basic warm up stuff for the core to kind of mobilize the spine a little bit. And then I'm going to get into certain core things. Just a quick breakdown of core. A lot of people think abs and core. Abs are part of the core, but they're not the only core muscles. You could make an argument that anything that influences shoulders to hips, including the neck and pelvic floor, all kind of fall into the core category: front, side, and the back side. And so, again, I know you're on the call here working with
Yep.
horses, and I'm assuming, like, I'm picturing grabbing a hay bin here and bringing it over there multiple times. You get that level of rotation. Again, I know it's not just that, but literally shoveling shit
Oh
would
yeah, yeah,
be
yeah. No, no.
a
And that's
core
what. So
exercise.
like when I'm mucking the stalls, because I'm right-handed, I always have my right hand higher up on the fork, so my right side of my core gets stretched, but my left side is the one that's doing the more bending. So my core never goes another way.
Yeah.
So I get
So
really stiff in those core muscles.
So I think I mentioned I was a rower in university, and rowing, a
Yeah.
lot of people would say, oh, like lots of core. 1,000%. The thing on rowing is on a machine, you're here and you're pulling.
Yeah.
I'm on a boat and it's a sweeping motion. So you rotate, rotate, rotate,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
come. And so
Yeah.
I got really strong this way. This way feels restrictive. And that's a
Yeah.
rotation thing. And
Ah.
so the other aspect, like even the shirt I'm wearing is perfect. If you notice when I rotate to the right, do you see the fabric kind of come up diagonally? And then
Yeah.
same thing when I rotate. That almost mimics what our fascia is going to do. So you can see it changes. It's almost my obliques kind of come up to the opposite shoulder and down through this hip, and that's what we would consider a sling. If I'm throwing, I'm making a lot of distance between this hip and this shoulder as I come through, and then that distance shortens, but then on the opposite side between that hip and shoulder, it's now lengthened. And so if you
Right.
think of your torso like a 3D box, when this rotates and comes away from here, but then it has to be the same thing on the other side. So a lot of that patterning that you're going to do is asymmetrical. And so we can do gentle warm up, and then I'll give us a couple exercises that we can do that should actually help with it. And your spine needs to be able to rotate, but it also needs to prevent rotation. It needs to lateral bend, but it also needs to prevent lateral bending, and it needs to stiffen and crunch, but it also needs to prevent the crunching and extension. So it's like it needs to both move and be rigid, fluid like water.
Well, and
So,
like for actual riding, like riding is very core oriented. Like you have to have a good core to be balanced in the saddle. But because I have one side of my core that gets more used than the other, I find my riding, I'm struggling because my core is stretched and constricted and like it's not balanced. So that's why I was like, perfect, let's do core.
just like you said, it's good for you to do stuff outside of your realm of your routine, or once you cramp up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start us off with just with the basic cat cow. The reason I like the cat cow as a basic one is you're just feeling your spine articulate. This is almost in every client of mine's warm up routine because of how beneficial it is, and it's not a cliche. It's just there's nothing that's going to replace spinal articulation like going through the cat cows. I'm much better at pushing my upper back to the ceiling. I'm not nearly as good as my tailbone going up and my belly to the ground. And so that's where I really focus on connecting. But in this position, it feels really easy. In this position, it feels much harder. I'm going through my head to my tailbone, looking up, tailbone up, and then tucking tailbone and upper back to the ceiling. Again, everyone's got different spines. It's almost the cliche that there's like a meme on Instagram where it's is she really that bad because she's got a big butt, or does she just have like a extra arch in her low back because she's got poor
Yeah.
posture? And so I think of models like Kim Kardashian. Like, of course she has a butt. It's
Yeah.
just she really exaggerates in her photos by sticking out her ass and the arch in the low back. It's like that can't be healthy. That's what I think, at least.
My lower
So
back could never do that. Like my lower back is pretty restricted in how far it goes either direction.
and for me, I feel restricted this way, but to tuck, I feel pretty decent. And so
Oh
that's an
wow.
indication that I feel like I need to be able to untuck a little bit better, but then I get a little tight in that low back when I do that. So, and everyone's anatomy is a little different, sports, height, even the pelvis. The pelvis and the core have a big correlation. I've had hip surgery, and we had to do a lot of core work, learning to tuck because I had a anterior pelvic tilt, so that's the Kim K, and then I would squat, and then I'd get a hip pain, so I had to learn how to tuck underneath, and that really got me created more space in my hip capsule. So that kind of leads into the next aspect of core training. If I'm in my tabletop position and I actually let my knees go a little bit further away. Do you see that I'm in a kneeling plank position?
Yep.
From here, if I just do the cat-cow in my low back, you can see I untuck and I'm trying to do that Kim K arch. But then when I tuck the tailbone underneath, I use my glutes and my core and I draw that belly button in. Do you feel that turn on your core a little bit when you tuck underneath?
My core, but not my glutes.
That's okay. So I'll explain a little bit here. The glutes are responsible for pushing the hips forward, but also the tucking. Like you can see my glutes having to
Yeah.
squeeze as I tuck underneath. It takes a little bit of time to learn that. I can show you on a glute bridge and then we can connect it here, but I'm actually going to give you another cue. My rib cage is here, my pelvis is here, I have four corners, and my belly button's in the middle. If I create a box with my four corners with my belly button in the spine, I pull the four corners to the belly button, and I think about a string connecting my belly button to my spine, drawing my belly button in. That's another cue. I'm going to go through the glute bridge with you, and then
Hey.
with the glute bridge,
Yeah.
we'll connect it to what we just kind of did. Again, not a lot of people think of glute bridge as core, but your
Oh
glutes and
yeah.
core work together. Your low back and hip flexors kind of work together. So if I'm on my back here, do you see that I tuck that tailbone first? I'm just tucking
Okay.
tailbone, not doing the glute bridge, drawing that belly button in, pushing through the heel, squeezing the glutes, and drawing that belly button into the core all at the same time. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, down. Full relax. Take a breath. Tuck the tailbone, draw that belly button in, push through the heel, squeeze the glutes, knees, hips, shoulders, one straight line. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Down, relax, take a breath. We're going to do that one more time, and then I'm going to add a small extra wrinkle. Tuck that tailbone, draw belly button in, push through heels, squeeze the glutes, brace that core, hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Obviously, that's a lot more glutes than core. People misunderstand that the upper back is also part of the core. So if I'm on the ground here and I have my elbows on the ground, without doing anything, I'm going to push my elbows into the floor as hard as I can. I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together. Do you feel that activate the upper back?
Yeah.
Okay. Doing that and the glute bridge at the same time, you're going to get a lot of
Oh.
posterior chain. You can still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So tuck the
Well,
tailbone,
yeah. Yep.
drive elbows into the floor, squeeze your glutes, and drive up. You should feel upper back, glutes, and core all working together.
Oh yeah.
So that's a good way to create rigidity in the spine. This is like anti-sitting. And when you think about it, from this position, it is the opposite of seated. My hips are actually perfectly flat versus seated, my hips are at that 90 degree. So I'm creating tension to fight the position of chronic sitting. So again, I know it's not the same as sitting in a saddle, but my guess is doing some of the things that's opposite to prevent that constant same stimuli, just like sitting at a chair. Of course, you can do one more round. Sitting in a saddle, I'm assuming your legs are so wide that it puts a lot of tension on your hips too. I can
Oh
only
God, yeah.
I can only imagine. I'm scared to ride a horse. You can make fun of me for that. I feel like they can tell. So
We'll
yeah,
change that. Don't worry.
yeah,
We can
yeah,
change
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So um, you've done 3 reps with the elbow drive too, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
that's a good way to kind of just feel out, oh, creating spine stiffness. So coming back to here, even if you don't feel it in the glutes, that's not the end of the world. But the way I do my pelvic tilt isn't that much different than a glute bridge. So my shoulders are over my wrists. I tuck that tailbone, 4 corners to belly button to spine. It's way more core here, but I do feel my glutes squeezing, and I'm making that connection of glutes and core together. Hold that for 5 seconds, and then I relax. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Perfect. And we're going to do that 2 more times, holding each time for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. And one more. Tuck, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Pull that belly button in. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. And breathe. Ugh. So
I can
that's
tell that it's not symmetrical because when I'm tucked in, my pelvis kind of shifts side to side, trying to figure out how to balance.
interesting. So that's good that you picked that up. Imagine this is your pelvis, and so it
Uh-huh.
can rotate like this. You can also have one pelvis rotate and not the other one as much. And so sometimes what happens is the pelvis can be kind of ajarred, shifted, and kind of twisted. Another thing that I noticed too, at least in me, because again, I'm not perfectly symmetrical. My sternum is here. My pubic bone is here. It should be one straight line. If I'm off center, my chest could be rotated, and then it's got like a little bit of a curve down to that pubic bone. So that's another aspect. I don't know how often you see chiro or osteo, but I would I would always say osteo is really good at those little micro adjustments. Sometimes there's only so much we can do. Sometimes they take
Yeah.
away some of the restrictions and then you do correctional. I am an osteo friend of mine. He sent me a lot of clients and I've sent him a lot of clients because we work really good synergistically where I take them
Right.
through stuff like this and he can actually go in and manipulate and let the tissue chill out because again I remember you have a lot of injuries. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done a windmill with you before. I'm going to show you a standing
Okay.
windmill and then a kneeling
Oh.
windmill. It's
Oh.
not
Okay.
it's not a windmill like a cartwheel, it's different. So not a lot of people are familiar with it. And I actually do
Okay.
this with weight pretty regularly. And you can build up the tissue to be able to handle the weight while doing this. So I actually will use a water bottle just so that there's something in my hand so you can imagine it a little bit better. But I've actually been able to get up to like 100 pounds doing something like this. It's an overhead position, and I'm always going to look up at the weight so I know where it is. The other arm is down, and I have a soft bend in my knee, soft bend in my hips. I look up at the weight. I rotate to that side first, and then I slowly hinge at the hips, and I come down into this position. This is the windmill. I come up the same way, and then I rotate to the front. That
It's
sometimes is.
almost like it's like half a Turkish getup.
I love Turkish get-ups. And yes, it is part of the Turkish get-up family. The kneeling
Ah,
one will
okay.
remind you of it more. Do you do Turkish
Okay.
get-ups?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, those are good for your core, but it can be sometimes nicer to break it down into these sort of positions. So
Okay.
rotate, hinge at the hips. It's almost like the bottom half is like a Romanian deadlift. The top half is almost like again, it's a windmill, but it's lizard with rotation almost, or like a thread the needle. Rotate, hinge, and then come back up. I'm going to do
Ugh.
that 3 on both sides. And so again,
I
from this
don't get very far in it.
don't worry. It's also, what if one side you can go way farther than the other side? It's about symmetry.
Right.
So now as I rotate, this side I feel a little bit tighter, I feel a little bit more restricted. My bottom hand and my top hand should be one straight line. If I get down to the ground, that's fine. But if I can only get down to half the shin, that's fine because we're working through that range of motion. So you want to
Oh no,
add.
Nick. I'm making it down to my knee and that's it.
That's okay. A lot of people are really tight there. So go slow, hold as far down as you can go, hold it, hold it, hold it, and then just kind of working our way back up. This is mobility and core kind of synergistic together. And when you add weight, there's a lot of shoulder stability that has to go on. Now, that's a standing windmill.
Ugh.
I know, I know, I know.
No, it just like I feel it in my like lower spine, like right in my
Yeah,
lumbar spine, and it
right,
feels like
right
there's
here.
like yeah.
Yep, that's your QL, and it's actually getting put in a stretch position. It's so hard to stretch it because it doesn't get stretched just with that twist. It also has to bend. So me being in this position allows the ribs to come further away from the pelvis because that's the two areas it's attached. It doesn't get stretched when I just bend. It doesn't get
Oh,
stretched when I rotate. I have to both be rotated and down. I'm in the same position as a windmill here. I'm just not having the weight overhead. And
right.
so it's like a weird muscle. A lot of people actually are tighter on one side than the other side. That's where there can be some asymmetrical. And I don't know,
Ah,
are you a golfer or no?
nope.
Now, golf, you have that swing,
Yeah.
and one that side's going to get a lot tighter. This is like one of the best exercises for golfers, but it's a great exercise for anybody who has an asymmetric sport, and we're all asymmetrical to some degree. Kneeling will remind you of a Turkish getup as well. Again, you can
Right.
do this body weight, and I'm going to rotate to the side of the knee that's up. Hand is going to come down to the ground, looking up at that weight. But now at least my hand is able to support me up and rotate
Oh.
to the knee that's in front and coming down to the hand and then coming back up and rotate. You're loading it with weight, which is actually a good way to strengthen it in a lengthened position. The gym I work at, and I know you've sent me a couple gyms, trust me, I appreciate that. I do actually write some of the programming for the
Yep.
classes I do at least. There was a class called Strengthen and Lengthen, and you strengthen the
Ah,
muscles in a lengthened position, and it's a good way to work the best of both worlds. Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, my low back is so tight, I need to stretch it." No, you need to strengthen it,
yeah.
right? And it's tight because it's weak and it's in danger. So strengthening muscles in lengthened positions is a good way to open things up, but also reinforce it. So that's the kneeling one. I don't think you could do this one. I'm going to show it just for the camera. I put the
Okay.
water bottle down. Do you see that I don't have the hand on the ground anymore? I actually go much deeper. I don't think that you'll be able to get to that point. So now my
Probably not.
elbow is basically touching the ground. That would be like full range. That might be a little much for you, but that's a good way to think about progressing. Even body weight is a decent amount. You don't have to have a
Ugh.
heavy weight. I know. I know. So that's bridging mobility and core together. I'm going to give you one more, and this is going to circle back to that original one. And then I
Ugh.
might give you one more on top of that. We'll see how you feel. I'm going to show you my favorite way to do a plank. It's called a tension plank. And so most people do planks wrong. They do planks in a way that they think they need to hold the plank as long as they can. You should actually create as much tension as you can. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so if I'm on my forearms and I'm thinking about crunching through the ground, while I tuck the tailbone, I'm trying to shorten the distance between my ribs and my pelvis to create as much tension. Again, four corners to belly button to the spine. When I'm doing this, I activate the core so much that I'm going to fatigue so much quicker. And that's a good thing because we're trying to train strength with neuromuscular connection, not just how long can you hold a plank. So when I'm on my elbows here, and
Yep.
I'm on my feet. I crunch through the ground, squeeze my butt, brace the core, similar to that beast with pelvic tilt I had you do, holding that as hard as you can for 10 seconds, and then take a breather. Again, the goal is crunch through the ground as hard as you can, tuck the tailbone as much as you can, and brace the core as much as you can. Do you feel that? Activate so much more.
Yeah. It's hard to breathe holding it.
That's why you're only going to hold it for 10 seconds.
Oh,
Now,
all right.
if you've ever seen a kickboxer, when they go like with a kick,
Oh.
you can do this on the ground here too. So you can be on that plank position, and it's that quick inhale, and then you have 10 seconds to recover. So that's just 2 rounds.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should feel that core light up so much more. The more
Oh
you
yeah.
crunch and the more you tuck, the more you feel it. That's a good thing. You want to fatigue quick. I'll let you do one more. I'm going to have a sip of water, and then I'll show you one more just for fun.
It's also a good stretch for the foot holding that, 'cause my
Your,
feet get pretty
oh yeah, your
tight.
feet would be in that position where it's the
Yeah.
toe mobility. Yes, yes.
Which I have none of because I've sprained or broken so many of my toes from competitive gymnastics. My toes don't bend. So it's a really good stretch through my bottom of my foot.
So what's funny is I'm working on, this is a side tangent, but whatever. I'm working on my walking, obviously, because we have the walking challenge. When I'm walking, a lot of people open up their foot like this when they walk, and then they end up with knee pain. I'm actually really focused on slightly internally rotating my feet, and as I go through, you can see my back foot is actually pointed in a little bit, and my back toes are going to be like that. These are my shoes, and I take so many steps with these shoes. Yes, they're worn up a bit, but
Oh
there
wow.
there's no support, and that's on purpose. I had flat feet for the longest time, and so I'm able to be in that back position when I'm walking, and so I constantly get that toe mobility, right? And yes, I have actually sprained my big toe. It was like every 3 months for like 4 years, I sprained my right big toe. And I'm focusing on that position as I'm walking. And
Okay.
I do actually feel that big toe, the ligaments, I'm working through it a lot. I feel the hip, I've had surgery, really working through that. I feel the tendon from the hamstring graft of my ACL really working when I'm walking. I'm like, okay, this is cool because I'm putting my mental energy into my proper walking mechanics. Even my walking mechanics, it's this sternum is over this hip, and then when I switch to the other side, it's this sternum over this hip. So I have that slight rotation again of that shoulder to that hip, kind of that swagger is what you would call it. So why am I talking about all that? I'm going to go over one little good rotational exercise for us in
Eh,
a what's it called? It's called a Russian twist, but a lot of people do it crossing their feet. They hunch their spine and they just kind of move their hands quick like this. Not very intentional. Put your feet on the ground, sit as tall as you can, shoulder blades back. Remember how I had you row into the floor? Well, now put
Yeah.
your arms in that position, squeeze your elbows tight to the body. And what we're going to try to do is have our eyes and our chest point to the same direction. I'm now going to rotate as far as I can to the right, and you'll feel some of those muscles that run up and down the spine start to shiver and almost cramp. When I get to
Yeah.
that end, I'm going to reach a little bit more with the spine, a little bit more, and then I'm going to come out of it and go to the left. So this is as far as I can go naturally, but I'm going to think about rotating more through the spine, more through the spine, more through the spine, more through the spine, and I get that little bit extra. It's taking it to the end range. So you can see from the side position, sitting up nice and tall from my sit bones to my head, rotate as far as I can to the right, and then go a little more, 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 reach, 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 and then I come out, and we're gonna go to the left. We're gonna reach a little more, 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 and relax. Do you feel the difference on that level of rotation? Do you feel
Whew.
kind of a little sticky in some of those points?
Yeah.
That's where you're taking it to that end range and you're connecting to the muscles and just trying to reach, 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 and then come out of it rather than it being quick and not getting to those end ranges. So that's kind of some of the core stuff in a nutshell.